The Better Business Analyst Institute
presents the Better Business Analyst Podcast with
Benjamin Walsh. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Better Business Analyst Podcast with your host, Benjamin Walsh. Now, a lot of people have been asking to kind of see my face or have some visuals while I speak. So we're going to trial this on YouTube and see whether or not we get much feedback. So if you like this video, that helps us add some comments about how we can make it more interesting for you. And let's get started with this BA Bytes topic that I want to talk about this week. And the topic is really around process modeling. We have touched on process modeling a number of times throughout some of our sessions together. And I really wanted to talk about a particular problem, which is around the fact that we think that as BAs, we need to go all the way down to a business process modeling language, like a very specific diagram when we're explaining things to our customers. And I just want to say that that fallacy is incorrect. So I guess it is a fallacy. It's not true. So what we want to do when we first start with our process modeling is have that from our context diagram, which we first start off with. So we're drawing some just functions that we think need to exist, and they're not really in any particular sequence. They might come to us in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4. They may be represented by the customer journey, and that's generally sequential. But customers can jump around a process. So when you first start doing your high-level process diagram, it's just the big chunky items. You don't even need to draw arrows between them. Okay, so what I'm talking about is you might need to capture some leads. You might need to contact the lead. You might need to classify the lead. You may need to work the opportunity. You may need to engage with the contact. You may need to convert the opportunity into an order. So they are sequential in some format, as in I've set them in left to right format, but they're not necessarily maybe all at the same levels of abstraction. They might be slightly out of sequence. There might be some hierarchy there around the contact underneath the lead, or the lead can convert to both a contact and an opportunity. So it's not perfect, and that is okay when you're talking about process level 1 in this scenario, just under 0, the customer journey. It's okay to have them that way. It's okay to have them just as big blocky things. And if you get down to the detail of trying to do decisions on that or start to have any detail, it actually just doesn't help for what you're trying to achieve at that phase of the project. Equally, if they are cleaned up a bit to be defined phases with inputs and outputs, that's kind of a good level for capabilities to be talked about. And so what are capabilities? Capabilities are really the the formation of a process, a step, a series of steps, the technology that you're using to perform that step. And that could be both IT technology or any type of technology. And it's also the skills and people that you are applying, the resources you're applying. So the combination of that is the capability. So capabilities can be examined in terms of their strengths. Are they operating well? Are they not? So it's the system, and quote unquote, the capability involves all those things. So when you start talking about processes, which is the name of the capability at that high level, we can actually really see how they relate to business functions that we might have across the organization. So the first point is, if you're working at that really high level, don't worry about going all the way down. So then when we drop down further into the kind of level 1, 2, we do break down. We broke those down further, and there's always this hierarchy. There's always a link between the top and the bottom level. And we do that as part of our high-level requirements, our current state analysis, and as we're dropping high-level epics out of there. So then people always ask me, where do procedures and where do business process modeling come in? Business process modeling really comes in. It can represent process level 2 and 3, but it's there really. Don't worry about the numbers. It's there when you need to do detailed analysis. It's when you're extracting requirements or you're automating a system, or both. They should both happen in parallel. You are extracting the requirements from that. And it's really important. And that you use BPMN, you use business process notation language, so you're consistent and you can work with other BAs, specifically if you're working on a large program of work where there are lots of BAs working on it. So the symbols do matter. And then once you've done that, when you've gone to a BPMN level, which is the lower level detail you need, and there can be details within the business process model as well. But once you've done that, the next step, which is really the transition between the BA and the design or the solution, is where you're describing how something happens. And so you can do that in many ways. You can literally list or take your process model and you can start to annotate with system steps or features that you want along the way. It's not a business process model anymore if you're doing that. It is now describing how that feature is going to be recognized. It's quite a useful technique. I do it quite often when I'm talking to architects, or they draw on my diagram. And they start to build a set of features, effectively, solution components, they would call them, within their architecture at that point. Or maybe a developer would start packaging different classes, which are really coming from the data model. But these are some of the functions that they need to do under their classes. Equally, then, when you know the kind of area that's going to meet that requirement, the solution step or the features that are going to resolve that function, so before that function with feature, that's where a procedure comes in. So you have your process diagram is no longer agnostic because you're now mirroring that and you're now overlapping it to a solution and a set of features. And the combination of that process model broken down further, like the sub-tasks within the process step. And you only do that to tell someone how to do something, like a series of work instructions. That's your procedure level. It's a procedure level documentation and standard operating procedures, sometimes we call it that. That changes often because your solution and the technology changes more often. They evolve all the time, even if you don't want them to. Sometimes SaaS products evolve. So that's where your procedures change all the time. And that really should be owned by the user or the user area, or if you have a business improvement team, they should be the people that are maintaining that documentation. So if the system changes, then that user group, maybe you'll have a SME in that area, maybe you'll have areas of knowledge. They should be responsible for updating the procedure document. You might do it as an output of your project in order to help for testing and help people, training and change management. But really that's owned by the user set. So that's just another way of looking at process modeling and just using the right process technique, the right level of abstraction for what you're trying to achieve along the way. And so they all fit into the delivery journey. And obviously you can find out more about the delivery journey at the Better Business Analysis Institute. Do our certified Better Business Analysis Level 1 course, which will help you understand where those different phases and different techniques will jump in. Or you could just shout out, leave a comment, especially on this YouTube video, and I'll try and answer those questions as soon as I can. See you next week.